Hello, this is Fathi, and welcome to my show. This is Concoctions with Fathi. Now, basically, what we're going to do on the show is show you different ways to take what you already have in your kitchen and make something that is filling and hopefully relatively tasty. For our first episode, we are going to be doing a little dish a friend of mine taught me. I have to give shout outs for Muhammad Anwar. If you have not checked out his YouTube page, feel free to go and do so. Now, for the sake of brevity, I have already done the rice. Now, this can be done with a regular rice, bag of rice. Okay? Or, if you're like me, and I just don't feel like doing that, you can also do the boil in bag. Now, after you have the rice, the next primary ingredient that you're going to need is going to be tuna. Now, you can get the tuna that is in water, or you can get the one that's in oil. But be advised, you don't want a lot of oil because you're going to have oil in this already. Now, let me go ahead and get this open here. When you open this, after you've gotten the can fully open, and we all know how much fun it is to open some of these cans, the next thing that you're going to want to do is to drain the can. So you are going to want to make sure you get all of that out of there. Or at least as much as you can. Now, you can go ahead put the tuna in with the rice. Okay. Now, you may have noticed the eye is not on yet. That is not accidental, I assure you. Now, your two best friends for cooking this particular dish are going to be a basic tablespoon and a spatula. Now, the size of the frying pan that you want to use depends on how much you want to make. For me personally, I like to eat, so I used 2 of the boil and bag rice with the larger tuna can that you saw a minute ago. So first, I'm going to try and spread out this tuna a little bit. Okay. Now, there are some other ingredients that you're going to need to make this. Most of which you should already have in your house. These are basic staples. I'm talking garlic powder, onion powder, sugar, and fish sauce. Now, the fish sauce you may not necessarily have, but it doesn't cost that much. You can get one for about $2.50, and you don't need that much for this dish. Now, some of you may not want to get an additional spoon to get the sugar out. I do because I'm finicky about, you know, um, cross mixing. Okay, looks like we got a little bit of a situation here. See, sugar appears to have hardened. Now, the sugar is not necessarily required for this. It just helps it to make it a little bit tastier, in my opinion. If you feel like the rice and the starch is already enough, then don't add the sugar. And the sugar is to taste. Okay? So you just want to add the sugar as far as what you want. Now, the next thing we're going to add is going to be the garlic powder. Now, the order does not really matter, because you're going to be mixing all of this in anyway. What you do want to do, though, is when you have this in the frying pan, you're going to want to make sure that the rice and the tuna is as spread out as possible. And you're going to want to cover as much of that as possible with the garlic, but not too much. Just enough that the garlic has covered the rice and the tuna. Okay? The garlic is essential. You need to have the garlic. It is not like the sugar. You need to have the garlic if you're going to have this taste right. The onion powder. Okay. You want to do enough of the onion powder, just like with the garlic powder, that you have it, kind of cover. Not nearly as much, though. As the onion powder will blend in with the garlic, and usually the garlic powder has onion mixed in with it. This is a very common thing. They don't bother to label. Now, for the fish sauce, okay, if you're not big on the idea of mixing sugars and stuff like that, or you're not particularly fond of fish sauce, you can also use oyster sauce. Now, oyster sauce has a sweet kind of flavor to it, so it's very good if you're wanting like that sweet kick. Okay, now this is a little bit more expensive than the fish sauce, because the oyster sauce is going to run about $3 or $4 a bottle, but you don't need that much. For today's lesson, we're going to go with the fish sauce, mostly just because this is all about practicality and being able to do something in your kitchen, cook something up based on what you just have. So, this is already open. You want to go with, what you have. You don't want to open something new, something that hasn't been opened yet. So, I'm just going to kind of pour some of that fish sauce on there. Now, you don't need a lot per se, but you do want to try and get that in on the tuna, because that's going to help with some of the flavoring. Okay. Now, we got that in there. We're still not turning on the eye. As you can see, there's no eye on. No fire. Okay. The next thing we're going to want to do, we're going to try and mix some of this in here. Okay. You want to mix this stuff in. Now, I should mention that before I put the rice in the pan, I did put vegetable oil in there. Oil is preferable. It does not necessarily have to be vegetable oil, though. If you're worried about health or high cholesterol, you can use olive oil or a spray. I would not recommend butter, spray butter, because that will kind of mess with the taste. So you want some kind of oil to do this. And for this particular dish, you are going to want this in a frying pan, because the next thing that we're going to do, I'm going to turn that eye on. Okay. Get that eye going. Now you see, I'm kind of lowering the temperature here. And the reason for that is that you want it to kind of crisp. You want it to be kind of crunchy, but not to the point that it's hard to eat. Now, in our second video of what this looks like when, you've gone through the stages, it's cooked for a minute, I will show you not just what it's supposed to look like when it comes out and when it's done, but I'm also going to show you how to prepare it for best taste, in my personal opinion. So this is Fathi with Fathi's Concoctions, and stay tuned. We have the second episode, part 2 of the tuna and rice dish coming up.